this year, Gawker faced a lawsuit and lost in that lawsuit that was filed by Hulk Hogan. Now, Gawker had posted a sex tape that had been leaked of Hulk Hogan, and as a result, since they did so without his consent, and since that was filmed without his knowledge, they lost the lawsuit. Let me give you more details on that. The wrestler sued Gawker Media for invasion of privacy after it published a sex tape, and a Florida jury recently awarded the wrestler, whose real name is Terry Jean Bollea, $140 million. Now, Nick Denton, who is the founder and editor-in-chief of Gawker, is now possibly thinking about selling the media outlet. But that's not the big story. The big story is how Hulk Hogan, an individual who didn't necessarily have the resources to take on Gawker, got the resources to take on Gawker and win that case. So apparently he had a secret benefactor paying about $10 million for the lawsuit. Peter Thiel, the co-founder or a co-founder of PayPal and one of the earliest investors of Facebook. So here's a picture of Peter Thiel. For those of you who don't know much about him, he's a little bit of a mixed bag. He's not my favorite person on the planet. He is a pledged delegate for Trump. He is a libertarian. There are many qualities about this individual that I find unfavorable. However, I actually don't feel so bad about what he did in this particular case. So Peter Thiel was attacked by Gawker back in 2007. Now take yourself back to 2007 before the gay rights movement had made much leeway, okay? There was still a lot of homophobia in the country, and I think that, you know, the tolerance that we're seeing for the gay community now just did not exist at all in 2007. Now, Peter Thiel was attacked by Gawker in a headline, and it said that Peter Thiel is totally gay, people. That and a series of articles about his friends and others that he said ruined people's lives for no reason drove Mr. Thiel to mount a clandestine war against Gawker. So that's the reason why he gave Hulk Hogan as much as $10 million to win this case against Gawker Media. Now, Peter Thiel did talk to the New York Times about this, and here's what he had to say. It's less about revenge and more about specific deterrence. I saw Gawker pioneer a unique and incredibly damaging way of getting attention by bullying people even when there was no connection with public interest or with the public interest. I can defend myself. Most of the people they attack are not people in my category. They usually attack the less prominent, far less wealthy people that simply can't defend themselves. Even someone like Terry Bollea, who is a millionaire and famous and a successful person, didn't quite have the resources to do this. So I think he makes a really interesting point, because Gawker does believe in publishing stories that have absolutely no news value and simply do bully certain public figures. I do not agree with publications outing people who are not comfortable being outed yet. Gawker does not have any qualms about that, okay? And Gawker recently, not recently, but months ago, had posted a story about an executive's very personal sex life that had no ties to anything. This person was not anti-gay, this person was not anti-anything, never really caused any problems, but Gawker just decided, hey, you know what? We know that he has sexual relations with this person. It's a juicy story, so we're gonna publish it. I mean, they just ruin people's lives by leaking very personal, private details about these individuals, and I don't agree with it. So I think Peter Thiel makes an interesting case.
You want to go on?
I don't. So I agree with a lot of what you're saying, Anna. I think he does make a really interesting case. Mm-hmm. I think there were points raised in the New York Times article about how much will his actual financial influence really have any weight within the case? Because if it did, then that's not fair. But you know, a lot of people are speculating that it probably won't. He's just kind of helping him out. Mm-hmm. I have as a lesbian, I have a very complex relationship with outing people. Mm-hmm. But I am very much a product of my time. It's 2016, I'm 25 years old, so I've grown up really where being gay has been fine. It was never really an issue for me. I had never had any backlash. So when I hear about Peter Thiel just having this visceral reaction to being outed and really mounting a campaign against Gawker, and I think that I really disagree with some of the things that Gawker has published, but there is still a bit of a disconnect for me from the gay community, as a part of the gay community, that this anger came from being outed as gay. Because to me, it's just, you're gay.
So leave the gay part out of it for a second, okay? Because what was really interesting to me was the Hulk Hogan case
Right.
by itself. Because for those of you who don't remember the details of that case, he was going through a terrible time with his wife. They were in the process of getting a divorce. He was devastated. And so he had a friend who was also a public figure, a radio show host, Bubba something. I'm forgetting his name. I'm sorry. But anyway, his friend basically said, why don't you come over to my house and have sex with my wife, okay? And so he goes over and he has sex with his friend's wife as his friend is secretly filming him, okay? And then in that tape, you can hear his friend say something along the lines of, well, if we ever need to retire, this is our ticket, right? Basically saying that he could use this as a way of earning money.
Yeah.
And so this terrible person leaks the tape to Gawker, and then Gawker publishes it, right? And it did have severe ramifications on Hulk Hogan's life. A, he had no idea he was being filmed. B, he did not consent to being filmed or having that leaked to the press. And so he had a good case, and that's the reason why he won the case. Now, if you're an individual who doesn't have the resources to take on a media empire or a media giant, you have no chance of winning that case. You just don't. We have that two-tier justice system, and Peter Thiel saw an opportunity to not only get revenge, but help Hulk Hogan in a case where he was right. His privacy was violated.
And see, that I agree with, because his privacy was unquestionably violated. It's more the disconnect for me that the anger came from being outed. And I think I'm just fortunate in that I do not experience that anger. If I had been outed, I imagine that it would have been just a very similar experience to when I came out of my own volition. But then again, I'm also not a major tech billionaire, so I have no idea the sort of deals that might affect. It's just the anger that it stems from is strange, but I think that the campaign that he's mounted in a lot of these cases, because we don't actually know, the only case that we know that he is backing is Hulk Hogan's case, but it's very possible that he could be backing other ones. You know, I think that these are some just causes.
Yeah,
I think that
they are. And
I think I'm a little bit split on both of them, only because, like both cases I understand, but all right, just open book, I think Gawker's garbage. I don't like any of the stuff that they post, and I don't like the way they go about their findings. Do I agree with Peter Thiel's methods? I think that it's very political. That's just my 2 cents on it. I think that it's using wealth to help and try and hinder the way that news is broadcasted. If that was being portrayed anywhere else, like for instance, Donald Trump doesn't exactly like the way certain media's broadcast him, so he attacks them whatever way he can, and it's no surprise that some similarities can be made there. One article I did read actually kind of just put out on paper the similarities between Theil and Donald Trump, but it's hard for me to sympathize when it comes to Gawker, and it's hard for me to sympathize when we've consistently seen how they've tried to scathe people's lives through their own means to get clicks and get views. I just think it's kind of ironic when I see the open letter that came out from the news editor to Peter Thiel, because it started, and I know you're probably going to go into more detail, it formed for the first time, I think, in Gawker's long career, or wherever they started, a personal connection. They try to make some sort of personal connection to their staff, some personal connection to their people, to try and make it, try and obviously get some sort of reaction and sympathy, which is something that Gawker has never stood by.
They've
never
been
emotional level.
It's exactly, it's like,
they've been very unapologetic about the types of articles that they've posted, about the people that they've outed, about the lives that they've ruined. They've been very unapologetic. And by the way, let me be absolutely clear about something. It's not like Peter Thiel went into the courtroom and gave jurors $10 million and said, you guys need to find Gawker guilty. Gawker broke the law. They simply broke the law. They violated Hulk Hogan's privacy. The only thing that Peter Thiel did is he realized that Hulk Hogan did not have the resources necessary to fight Gawker, and he gave Hulk Hogan the money necessary to do so, right? And so he did not break any laws as far as we know at this point. He didn't do anything unlawful, so let's keep that in mind. The heart of the story is Gawker doing something illegal and someone having the ability to fight them as a result of that. By the way, I think the First Amendment is the most important part of our Constitution.
Right.
And I believe in freedom of the press. But you are not allowed to do things that are illegal just because you're a member of the press. You're not allowed to defame people. You're not allowed to put out misinformation about people that might be libelous or malicious. There are certain laws that, of course, regulate the press, and they do so in a way that makes sense. And so Gawker broke those laws, and as a result, they're paying the consequences, regardless of whether or not Peter Thiel is involved in this or not. Now, as you mentioned, Nick Denton did put out an open letter to Peter Thiel, and I want to read you one part of this. He says, it's a long open letter. Obviously, I can't read you all parts of it. But he says, we hold the discussion in person. He wants to hold a discussion with in person with a moderator of your choosing in front of an audience under the auspices of the Committee to Protect Journalists or in a written discussion on some neutral platform such as Medium. Just tell me when and where. So basically he's saying, let's have a debate about this in an open forum, which, by the way, I think
would be great.
I know, but it's similar. It's kind of ironic because at the same time, Gawker were given ample opportunity to remove Hulk Hogan's video, and they were like,
and they refused to do it.
Nah,
they refused to
because,
do it.
I mean, come at me, we'll see what will happen. And then $140 million later. By the way, that trial's anything but over. There's appeals. Everything else is going to be going into it. I know they've ruled in favour of Hulk Hogan. We'll see what happens as it comes through. But it just seems a little bit, and Nick Denton's like, oh, Jesus, we may be truly going under. So I'm trying to create some sort of personable connection to say that, because some of the quotations in here, they did appeal to me. I mean, as I said, I'm not in favour of Gawker, but when he puts it in terms of like, it's not just us, it's individual journalists, it's people that are going to lose their job. He actually quoted a statistic that the journalist who was involved in the Hulk Hogan case is now out of work and he has to pay $100,000. So he's trying to create that connection. He's trying to get that rise. He's trying to get people on board and make Gawker seem like the victim in this case.
But Gawker is not the victim.
And that's what I'm trying to state, is that it's hard to, I may not agree with everything that Peter Thiel has done or is doing or his motives behind it, because I think he's going to start using more cases that he may not necessarily agree with just to try and get somewhat revenge on a company that he hasn't agreed with. And he's got every right to, because they outed him, as he mentioned, at a time where it must have been a really hard thing to face. But when it comes down to Gawker, like, they have been living this life for how long now? It's only a matter of time before people now realized that Hulk Hogan stood up to them, and now more people can do it.